welcome to Intro to Django. In this course, I'm going to teach you the absolute basics of Django and how to use it to make websites. So Python is one of the best programming languages out there. It's a lot of fun to use. It's very, very easy, but it's very hard to make web pages with it. You need a framework, and that's where Django comes in. Now, there's a lot of different Python frameworks out there. Django's definitely the most popular. Problem is, right out of the box, Django can be a little overwhelming for most people. There's a lot of moving parts. It's very confusing, and it really kind of trips up a lot of people in the beginning. And it actually doesn't have to be. So in this course, we're going to take a step back and we're going to walk through Django very, very simply. We're not going to do any database stuff in this course. We're just going to build a very basic website, a very basic like personal website or a basic business website. You know, it'll have some HTML, some images, some links, things like that. But we're not going to be building the next Facebook in this course. So I have future courses that we will look at database stuff and get into all that fun stuff. But for this first course, this intro course, I think it's just very, very important to, like I said, take a step back and just do very basic stuff with Django and get over that initial learning curve. Because once you do that, Django is just a lot of fun to use. It's actually very easy, and it happens over and over again. I'm talking to people and all of a sudden a light bulb goes off and, oh, that's how you do it. And then it's just drop dead easy after that. So that's my goal in this course, to get you over that initial hump, to get you familiar with Django and show you how to make basic websites. And I hope you'll discover just how fun Django and Python actually is. So in this course, I'm going to be using Windows. Now, if you're on a Linux or a Mac, you should be able to follow along. There's going to be a couple little differences here and there. I'll try and point those out if I can, but it's really kind of trivial. Most of the stuff that we're going to be doing is going to be sort of system agnostic. Doesn't matter if you're on a Windows, Linux, or Mac. Obviously, there's going to be a couple little things here and there, like I said, but you should be able to follow along with no problem. So if you're on a Mac or Linux, you probably already have Python, but it's a very old version of Python, so you need to upgrade and add the latest version. If you're on a Windows, we need to go ahead and download the latest version. Now, even if you have Python on your Windows computer already, I'm going to recommend that you uninstall it and reinstall the latest version, because we're going to do a couple of little things you might not have done when you installed it the first time, and they're very, very important. So head over here, click on the Downloads tab here, and you get these two options. Python 2.7 is very old. They're about to drop support for it. You do not want to download this. This is just for people that have old projects in Python and they need to keep supporting it. What you want is the latest version, Python 3. Right now it's 6.5. By the time you watch this, it's probably going to be a different number. As long as it's not, say, Python 4, even if it is Python 4, you're probably all right to download it. So whatever the latest version is, just go ahead and click this to download it. Save it anywhere on your computer. I'm just going to save it on my desktop, and it's not a very big file, 29 megabytes. You should be able to download it very, very quickly. So once that's downloaded, you can just go ahead and click it right here, or navigate to your desktop or wherever you downloaded it and double click it. I'm just going to click it right here, click run. So this is very, very important. We don't want to just click here and do the defaults. We want the custom installation, but most importantly, make sure this little box right here is clicked. We want to add Python to the path, and this allows us to run Python from basically anywhere on our computer. If you don't click this, we're gonna have all kinds of problems, so make sure this box is clicked. Now after that, click this custom installation, and the thing here that we're most interested in is this pip. Pip is an installation program. It allows us to download and install things from the command line using Python. So super important. We're going to use this to actually download Django and some of the other tools that we're going to need, and so go ahead and make sure that this is checked. The rest of these, they don't really matter that much. You don't have to download the documentation if you don't want to, but if you do, go ahead and keep that clicked. And I'm just going to leave the rest of these checked. So click next. Now we probably want install for all users, and let's see, what else do we have here? Okay, I think we can leave the rest of these the way they are. So finally click install, and this should take just a couple of minutes to install depending on how fast your computer is. Now we're installing pip, adding to path. That path thing is the most important part of this whole installation, really. And like I said, even if you have Python already installed on your computer, I really recommend that you uninstall it completely. Go to your Windows Start menu and click Control Panel, and there's a little uninstall program option. When the next screen pops up, uninstall your Python completely from your computer and then reinstall it like we just did. That's gonna keep you from having a lot of problems. Now, if you're on a Mac or Linux, this is gonna be a slightly different thing, but you should be able to just walk through like we just did and install it just fine. So, okay, so setup was successful, very, very easy, and we should be good to go there. We don't have to actually download Django directly. We're gonna do that from the command line in just a minute, probably in the next video or so. But before we do that, we should download our text editor. So whenever you're writing any kind of code, it's always a good idea to have a good text editor. I use Sublime Text, definitely one of the most popular ones out there. Just go to Google and type in Sublime Text, I'm using version 3. Doesn't really matter what version you use. Just go to sublimetext.com and you can see here it is right here, a little picture of it. And if you're not familiar with text editors for coding, they make your job so much easier. They put different colors and things on your codes, makes keeping track of things very, very easy. And Sublime Text is, I don't know if it's the most popular one, but it's definitely one of the most popular text editors for coding, and it's completely free. Now they're gonna ask you for money every once in a while. A little thing pops up that says, hey, if you like this, would you please donate? I do kind of recommend that you do that because you're gonna use this a lot, and especially if you're coding professionally, you're gonna use this all day, every day. So give them a couple bucks if you want. You don't have to, it's absolutely free otherwise. There you go. So I'm on a Windows machine. It figures that out automatically, and it shows me this little button right on the main website to download for Windows. If you're on a Mac or Linux, you're going to get a button that says download for Mac or Linux, I imagine. So whatever operating system you're on, go ahead and click download. And we just want the latest version. It doesn't matter what that version is. It could be Sublime 5 by the time you watch this video. Who knows? Just go ahead and download the latest version. And same thing with the Python. Once it downloads, there'll be a little box down here. You can click it to install it. Just click next all the times it asks you. Take the defaults for everything and you should be good to go. So while we're talking about it, I'll just bring it up really quickly. This is Sublime Text. You can see it's just a blank text editor. Before we actually start writing code, it looks very boring, but this is what we're going to be using for the rest of the course. This is going to have all of our code. We're going to do all of our coding in here. All of our Django files will be in here. It's very cool. If you use some other text editor and you're familiar with it and you're comfortable with it, go ahead and use that for this course. Absolutely no big deal. But if you don't have anything, you want to follow along and use the one that I use, I definitely recommend Sublime. It's a lot of fun to use and it's just a really solid tool. So absolutely free, can't go wrong there. So in the next video, we'll start to install Django. There's a couple of things we need to do first. We're going to set up a virtual environment. In order to use Django, we need a text editor, but we also need a command line in order to run commands. And if you're on a Mac or Linux, you're going to use the terminal. You're probably familiar with that, hopefully. But on Windows, we're going to use something called the PowerShell. Now, there's a couple of command lines in Windows. There's the old DOS command prompt that you may be familiar with, and there's also the PowerShell that you may not be familiar with. And we're going to use the PowerShell. It's a lot like the Mac terminal. In fact, we're going to use a lot of the same commands in it, and the PowerShell lets us use those same commands. And if you don't know what any of this is, don't worry, this is not hard. We're just going to be doing a couple of things on it and I'll walk you through it. It's dead simple. So go to your Windows Start menu. This may not appear on the screen, it's kind of off to the corner here, and just go down to the bottom where the little search thing is and type in PowerShell, all one word. And the first thing that pops up, it's going to say Windows PowerShell. That's what you want, but don't just click on it, right click on it and then click Run as Administrator. So we need to do this the first time or two in order to set some settings up. After that, we don't have to run it as administrator, but the first couple of times we do, or at least the first time or so. So this is what we have right here. You can run commands and do all the things, clear the screen. So you can see right now we're in the C Windows system folder. I'm going to type in CD, which stands for change directory, and I'm going to just bop over to the C drive now, so you can see we're on C. Now, the first time we run this, we need to type in this command in order to allow us to run our Django commands anywhere. So basically, you just type in capital SET, set, and then a dash, and then capital E for execution, 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 capital P, policy, all one word, and then a space, and then capital U, unrestricted. It's gonna say, are you sure? Click yes. Okay, so this just lets us run commands in any directory, basically, using this PowerShell. So I can clear the screen. So one thing we want to do right away is type in Python-V, capital V. And you can see it says Python version 3.6.5. This tells us that Python is installed, it's running, everything's good to go. We can do pip-v, and my little antivirus is running to make sure this is okay. Yours may or may not do that. It's no big deal. And okay, it shows yes, we do have pip, so that's important. Next, I want to type in pip freeze. And what this does is it shows us all of the things that are currently installed on our system. And I have this virtual environment because I've installed this previously. You probably don't have that because you haven't installed virtual environment yet. So one of the first things we need to do is install virtual environment. And what this is virtual environment creates little walled gardens inside of our computer. So inside of a virtual environment, we can install all kinds of stuff. We can use Python, we can use Django, we can set all kinds of crazy settings and things, and it keeps it separate from the rest of our computer. So if we screw something up inside of there, it doesn't hurt the rest of the computer. It'll also allow us to use different versions of things inside the virtual environment. So if we want to use an older version of Python, we can do that inside the virtual environment very, very easily. If we want to use a different version of Django, we can do that inside the virtual environment. If we don't do that, then whatever we have installed on our computer is what we have to use. So right now we have Python 3.6 or whatever. We just have to use that. You can imagine being in a situation where you're working for a company, they've got an old website that's running on Python 2. You need to download and install Python 2. Well, you can't really do that unless you set up a virtual environment. So it's just best practices whenever you're coding anything to keep all your code together and sort of walled away from the rest of your computer. So we're going to use that in this course. It's very, very easy. And in fact, it doesn't take any effort to set it up whatsoever. So I'm going to go ahead and type in make dir. And let's create a directory where we keep all of our code stuff. And I'm just going to call it code. So now we can cd into code, and you can see we're now in the code directory. And if we type ls to list all the stuff in there, there's nothing in there. So now we want to install virtual environment. And like I said, I've already got it on my computer, but you probably don't. So just type in pip install virtual env. Env stands for environment. And this is, it's already satisfied. It's already been installed for mine. Yours, you're gonna get a bunch of stuff that's gonna scroll onto the screen. Just let it do its thing and you should be good to go. So now if we type in ls, still nothing there, clear the screen. So let's start our virtual environment. We need to actually tell our program where we want our virtual environment to be. And let's just put it in this code directory. So we type in virtual env and then the period. The period just means do it right here in this directory. So if we do this, it's going to take a second too, because it's going to install a bunch of stuff. It's installing setup tools. It's installing pip again for some reason. This wheel thing, I don't even know what that is, but it might take a couple seconds, but boom, now we're done. Now if we click ls, we can see there's all kinds of stuff in this folder. So that's very, very cool. So we've got everything installed. Now we have to turn it on. And to do that, we just type in period / and you can see this scripts directory right here. We need to access that. And then inside of the scripts, there's a file called activate. And boom, our virtual environment is now running. And we can tell that because this little code thing is in parentheses. And that's just the name of this directory. And this is just the format it shows us when a virtual environment has been turned on. So we can see all the files are still there. We can go pip freeze again to see what's in this directory. And I'm getting my antivirus thing popping up here. You may or may not get that. And you can see nothing is showing. When we did it before, it showed that virtual environment was installed. It's not showing anything in here now because this is a new thing. We've created a new virtual environment, and inside that environment, there's nothing. So we need to now install Django and all the things that we're going to need to do that. So to get out of your virtual environment, you just type in deactivate. There we go. And you can see this little code parentheses thing disappeared and you're back in the realm of normal computing. So to get back in there again, we just type in that script /activate, and you can do / or \. It really doesn't matter. They're the same for this. So that's our virtual environment. And now we are ready to install Django, and that's what we'll do. So we can go pip freeze. Just to confirm there's nothing in our virtual environment. We're still in our virtual environment because we have this little code in parentheses thing right here. So how do we install Django? Now, a lot of people want to go to the Django website and download Django that way and do all the stuff, and you don't have to do that. All we have to do is type in pip install Django. Now this will install the latest version of Django. In this course, it's at 2.0.4, I think. It doesn't matter what version it's at by the time you watch this video, as long as it's, somewhere around there. Before we do this, if you want to install a specific version of Django, you can do that right here. All you have to do is type in, after your Django, still touching the O in Django, don't put any spaces, put this == sign, and then just designate whatever version you want. So if you want version 1.11.4.4, you just type that in there and hit enter. We don't want to do that. We just want the latest version, so we just type in Django. So go ahead and hit enter, and it's collecting Django. It's using a cached version of Django 2.0.4. Like I said, if it's not, if it's on version 2.3 or 2.8 or whatever, you should be okay, as long as it's not version 3. Usually when they change the major number from 2 to 3, from 3 to 4, that's where the things start breaking down and they make big changes. Things might not sync up to this video, but up until the next big version, you should be good to go. So, all right, so we're installing collecting packages, blah, blah, blah. So let's go pip freeze one more time. And now we see Django has been installed. This PyTZ thing has been installed. Don't know what that is. And we're good to go. So clear the screen. Now, you can't really see that Django's listed here. It's more installed in the system, but we need to now create a directory in order to create our new project, our Django project. So it really doesn't matter what you call this directory. Let's go make dir. I don't know, we could just call it Django if you want, our Django project. Okay, so that's been created. Now we need to cd into that directory. So cd, and I typed the D, and now I hit the tab key on my keyboard, and it auto does it for me. And so now we're in Django projects. We ls, there's nothing in that folder. All right, so now we cleared the screen and we're ready to create our new Django project. You know, we call this directory Django project. Some people call it SRC, stands for source, you know, source code. It really doesn't matter, but we'll just keep it as Django project. All right, so in the next video, we'll create our new Django project.